Coming up on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show,
we're going to talk about 6 houseplants that are major oxidant producers that you should have at least one of.
As well as fall is here, winter is near, we're going to put the garden to bed and we'll tell you how you can do that so you're even more ahead of the game come this spring.
And we're going to have an interview with author Michael Carolan, and he is the author of No One Eats Alone, a food social experiment.
As well as your garden questions and our garden answers. Garden Radio's on the air, and it starts right now.
You're tuned in to the only vegetable gardening radio show in Milwaukee, with your host Joey Baird, who grew up in the country but now lives closer to the city, and Holly Baird, who has always been a city girl. Combined, they have over 25 years of gardening experience, who believe in simple gardening practices. A gardener for all gardeners, founders of the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, where they created over 800 how-to garden videos to teach others how to grow more of what they eat. Join them for the next hour as they discuss vegetable gardening and more.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show on 860 AM WNLV and W293CX 106.5. Wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening, whether through those particular stations, the TuneIn app, the Simple Radio app, the radio tab on the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com website, or anywhere in between. We are live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am your host, Joy Barrett. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is your destination, containing over 1,000, almost 1,100 garden videos, short and long format, for your entertainment and educational purposes, as well as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, G+, all of that other stuff. And you can ask questions there, as well as full-length in-studio video and podcast of this particular radio program, as well as segments and interviews in podcast and video form, all on the main page. Radio tab, highlight tab there. Well, we've got some things to cover. We had a question last week. At the end of the show, we will get to at the end of this show because we've got some other stuff going on here at the beginning. We do want to remind you again, you still have time to vote for Blue Mills, the official garden center of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. They are nominated for Best Garden Center and Best Landscape Center. We can do that. We'll talk about that in a moment. This program is brought to you by the sponsors you'll hear throughout the program, like Blue Mills and many others, and
Nasala Kombucha is the executive sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Nasala is made in Wisconsin with local tea and natural herbs. Look for it in the refrigerator aisle at your local grocer. If you don't see it, ask for it, because if it's not Nasala Kombucha, it's not kombucha. Find out more at nasala.com.
You can find out, you got a question, you can email us. You can find us on the website. You can also talk to us right now through the Ivy Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline.
Yeah, you can call into the ivyorganics.com hotline at 414-444-5250. Ivy Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields pruned and damaged surfaces for use on your roses, fruit and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. This product is non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic. For more information, visit ivyorganics.com.
You can email us at twvgradio@gmail.com. You can email us at twvgshow@gmail.com. You can tweet us at hashtag TWVG or at TWVG Show. So a number of ways in which you can contact us during the program and after the program. If you forgot all of those, you can just go to the website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. There's a big red button on the main page. Hit that. You can send us a question there. So he's talking about Blue Mills, nominating them, voting to be the best garden center in the city. They were voted the best garden center in 2013, 14, and 16 on the Milwaukee A-list. And how do we go ahead and vote for them this year?
So you can just go to bluemills.com. It's on their website, or you can look up the Milwaukee A-list and go there. It's pretty easy to vote. You just have to register. You're not going to get spammed, but you do have to register.
Support them because they support us, and you don't have to endure anything except for putting your email and hitting vote. Well, we have an announcement to make, and it's a big one. Holly and Joy, myself, of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show.
Are you talking in third person?
Yeah, I'm talking in third person.
Okay.
We are happy to announce that the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show Season 2 will officially be starting in March of 2018.
Ta-da!
Yeah, tentatively, we haven't locked anything down, but we believe it's going to be the same time. It's going to be 35 weeks, March through the end of October next year, and it's going to be somewhat of the same format. We'll talk more about this in the last segment next week because that's our last show for the year. But we've got a lot of things that we're going to change that's going to make it more enjoyable for you, the listener, and other things that go along with it. The format's going to be the same. We're still going to have informational-based content. We're going to have guests from all over North America, but we're going to take it up another level. So we're very happy to announce that we will be back next year.
So, right, and it's exciting, and we are looking forward to being on real radio again.
Yeah, we'll explain why it took this long for us to lock this in. There's some details that we can share with you in the end of the show next week. Well, let's talk about the topic we have this week, which is houseplants that are oxygen producers, that you should at least have one in your home. Now, this was, oxygen is a main, very important for us, and these plants have other properties in addition to the actual oxygen they produce. We've got 6 of them for you.
Right. So some of these you may have heard of. Maybe you've seen them in not even in a house, but in offices as well. A lot of people will have these at their desk because a lot of them don't necessarily require a lot of sunlight.
Right.
Which
Yeah,
one do you want to start with?
We'll start with aloe.
Okay, you're going to start with the aloe. All right. Yeah, aloe is a very popular plant. Many people don't realize that it can absorb the carbon dioxide and the carbon monoxide within the plant. So that's kind of nice. But also, there's
a lot of other properties
Yeah.
besides making oxygen.
So apparently, it's a natural laxative. So that's good to know. And then it could aid digestion and lower your blood sugar if you take.
Check with your physician.
Right.
Check with your doctor. We're not a doctor show. We're just telling you what the research we have found.
Especially if you might be allergic to aloe, that might not be a good idea.
Also, isn't it good for burns? You can bust it.
Oh, yeah, it's good for burns.
Because I remember as a child, we had an aloe, and when you got burnt, they would snap the leaf off and rub the juices on that burn, and it would soothe that pain.
And sunburn.
And
too.
sunburn, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you can buy, there's aloe vera juice, which is very good for you. Didn't know that existed until we did some research. Maybe you all knew that already. I certainly didn't.
I know about aloe juice.
I knew about the cream or in the bottle that you can get. But you can buy these plants easily at your garden center. You can buy them online as well. And they are very good for the home. And some people have multiple ones of these.
Right. And you can find them at your local home improvement store or garden center. So then there's a ficus. You may have heard of ficus. It's just another leafy plant.
It's a tree, isn't it?
It's a tree, yeah.
So this may not be the choice if you're going to go with one of these 6 plants. You may not want a small tree inside your home based on like where you're at.
And it'll drop its leaves.
So.
But you want to avoid this if you have pets or small children because the leaves could possibly be poisonous. And they can be a little bit finicky. So if you're looking for a house plant that's going to be good for your home, but you want low maintenance, ficus might not be the choice for you.
It is a very common house plant.
It is common, but
it's fidgety.
Yeah,
it can have some problems with the tree there.
Right.
In addition to the low light. Now let's talk about the low light on the aloe plant. Aloe plant doesn't require a whole lot of sunlight.
No.
It's not like a tomato where it needs 8, 9, 10 hours of sunlight. This thing can sit in the corner, like on the kitchen cabinet, and it'll be fine.
We had an aloe plant for a little bit.
We did, or you did?
We did.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you remember that?
I don't remember that.
It
I remember we had a cactus once, but
it didn't do very well.
Okay.
But that wasn't. It was given to us, and it was on its way out.
It was already downhill.
We-
at that point.
we decided
Here, we don't want to watch it die. We'll give it to
Yeah,
you.
we decided to try to adopt it or something, and then it was going downhill already. So don't let that discourage you from getting an aloe plant.
You want to get a plant. You don't want to try to start any of the stuff from seed.
No,
okay,
no.
let's just make
A
that
lot
clear.
of times you can get cuttings too from
Yeah,
people.
you can root the cuttings or
Like-
propagate the cuttings is the terminology used to get them to root. Another one is a very popular one that many people have is ivy.
This is very common, especially in offices. I noticed
It's a must-have herb. It's in the herb family, and if you buy this plant within 6 hours, it will have removed 58% of the what's that? 58% of what now?
58% Feces particles.
So that some people keep them in their bathroom
Oh yeah, that's true.
to purify the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, 60% of the toxins in the air. This will occur within 6 hours of bringing the plant into that particular room. And these can get viney.
Yeah, they get viney. So if
they're
they start
very,
to
very
vine-
popular house plant.
Yeah, you can cut them back.
Right.
You know, and if you know somebody, maybe you have an ivy plant and you're like, hey,
This thing's getting out of
I
control.
have a lot of it. You can grow them from a cutting. You just put them in some soil or water, and they'll grow from a cutting.
And a lot of people use them in hanging baskets, and they'll drape them next to like a big window.
Yeah.
Another one is a spider plant.
Now we've all kind of seen this. It's kind of, I don't know what the word is. It looks like a spider.
It's got multiple.
It hangs over. It's got multiple long leaves, and a lot of times you'll see them hanging and hangs over the basket. And so it can perform photosynthesis under minimal light.
Minimal.
So,
That's little to very almost nothing. So
and
that's
it
good.
can absorb toxins from the air such as carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, and gasoline. And now you might think, okay, what does formaldehyde have to do with? Because I noticed that on the what one is it? I think it was the aloe. But anyway, yeah, no, it's the ficus. The ficus can absorb formaldehyde too. And you might think, why would I have formaldehyde in my home?
Floating around, yeah.
But many people don't realize formaldehyde exists in your carpet, it exists in your furnishings,
Some cardboard also
Yeah,
contains
and-
formaldehyde.
and even some drapes.
And you know, based on how much you want to take into realization and understanding, there's a lot of chemicals, there's a lot of stuff that's not good for us that we come in encounter with on a daily basis.
No, and we also there's things called VOCs, which actually a lot of times are in different things like laundry soap, fabric softener.
And this is a toxin as well. Okay.
And they are called volatile organic chemicals, and they exist too. So, and you're breathing those in a lot of times. So it's good to have these houseplants to kind of help filter the air a bit.
And another one is the snake plant, and it has vertical, sharp-looking leaf structures of dark and light green pigmentation.
Yeah, it looks. I think that's the one that they call as mother-in-law's tongue.
That's what I was. There's a
Yeah,
similar
or
plant.
something
Yeah, there's
similar.
a similar, but it has the
But it
same
has
structure.
it has the same structure. Just, I don't know why they would call it a snake plant, but that's okay. And it produces oxygen at night.
Okay.
So you could have that in the bedroom or wherever, and it's again another one that does produce a photosynthesis under minimal light.
It's a very hardy indoor plant that you can grow about anywhere. So if you're one of these people that you're not a gardener and I kill everything I touch, the snake plant might be what you want to get, beneficial for your home, as well as you can't really kill it very easily. At least if you try, I guess anything's possible.
Well, I think a lot of times it's a matter of making sure they're watered, and many people don't.
At the correct time.
At the
We
correct
talked
time.
about when we had William Moss on a couple of the two times. It's not that you water. People water too frequently. That's the other problem. A lot of these plants in nature, it's set up to where they're located at that they only get water certain periods of time. When you water it every day or every other day or every week, that plant is absorbing too much water and it messes up its cycle.
Well, right, and my mom has a house plant above her fridge, and she said that she only waters it when it basically is about
is screaming, I need
is
water and
screaming,
I'm
"I need
going to die.
water,"
Yeah.
and then she waters it, and then so the cycle continues. But it's good for the plants live for a long time, and so it's not the worst thing for that plant.
Overwatering and underwatering are devastational on both levels. So that's that. So 6 house plants that you have, you can grow. Oh, we got one more here. The
peace lilies.
Peace lily.
I
I
think
thought
I've
we only had 5, but there you go. Okay, good.
I've seen these like in like office buildings, medical buildings, things like that, dentist offices, because they do put on a little bit of a flower.
Yes, they do.
But they can grow from 16 inches tall to 6 feet high. So you might want to make sure you get the variety depending on what you want to do. You might not want the 6 feet tall one.
And just like the rest of them, it removes the toxins from the air and also formaldehyde, like we talked about earlier. And it's well versed in cleaning and producing a lot of oxygen for your home, your office, whatever the case is. So with that being said, 6 houseplants that you can buy and help in your home, and maybe make the winter, and they're good for year round. It's not just just the winter thing. It's a year round thing. So when we come back, we're going to be putting our garden to bed. Some of you may already have done that. We're going to go over ways in which you can do it so you can get a better head start in the spring next year. Right after this.
Have a gardening question? Email Joey and Holly at twvgradio@gmail.com.
Do you have a problem with deer or small herbivores eating your vegetation? There is a natural solution that is safe for your pets and family. Bobex is the answer. An environmentally friendly solution to protect your plants, will not wash off, and is guaranteed. Bobex Deer was independently tested against 9 known competitors and rated 93% effective, second only to a physical barrier. Bobex can be used on all types of ornamentals, trees, and shrubs. Ask for it by name at your local independent garden center. Find out more, visit bobex.com. BOBBEX.com.
I have a growing family, and I try to make healthy meals. And one thing I really love about Woodman's is that they have a huge selection of fresh fruits and vegetables. And the quality is really good too. They even carry locally grown produce. And they keep the prices low. So I can stay within my budget and put a healthy meal on the table. I'm Cameron, and this is my Woodman's.
Hodgson Mill, 125 years of experience producing stone ground organic flour and cornmeal made from premium quality whole grains. Family-owned company, continual standards that are non-GMO, organic at the highest safety levels, offering a wide variety of flours, pasta, baking mixes, flaxseed, and more. Even kosher and gluten-free options. Found at most local grocers like Woodman's. For more information and recipes, visit HodgsonMill.com. That's HODGSONMILL.com.
Hi, I'm John Lewandowski, Retail Manager of Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center. Now, I'm not going to tell you about our awesome dome-grown plants, our beautiful pottery, or our 40 varieties of landscape materials. What I am going to tell you is that Blue Mel's is a local, independent, family-owned garden center that truly cares about your garden or landscape project. So if you're looking for that one garden center that actually cares about you, come to Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center. We've been treating our customers like family since 1955.
Blue Mills, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. So happy you've taken a little time out of your day to join us on this Saturday morning live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, no matter where you're listening to us in the country or around the world. We have listeners all over and during live and post-production on podcast and in-studio video. And TreeRipe.com is your place for winter citrus, summer peaches, blueberries, and you can find all that.
You can go to tree-ripe.com. They have all the information there that you're going to need starting in January.
Well, you can start now and start doing some research.
Yeah. But they'll have, and next spring they'll have the peaches, or next summer they'll have the peaches and the blueberries. But in the winter they'll have citrus. They have different types of oranges and grapefruit. And so it'll be coming to a stop right in your neighborhood. It's fresh, right off the truck, right from the source. And you can go to tree-ripe.com. They have locations all over upper and lower Michigan, Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, and of course Wisconsin. Tree-ripe.com is your go-to for the freshest produce around.
So happy that they've been part of the show this year. Well, it's time to put your garden to bed for most of us, and there's a number of ways in which you can do it. Some are more effective than others. Simply put here, we're gonna go through a number of ways, or a number of ways we put our garden to bed. But what we're wanting to do is you want to put the garden to bed so it's ready to go in the spring, or so there's minimal activity you have to do in the spring. Because if you're a gardener, you know there's a certain week in March, April, early May where everything has to get done, it feels like, in 2 days. So we want to put the garden to bed. We want to feed the soil, is one of the big things here in the fall. You can do that in a variety of different ways. You can feed the soil by layering compost on top of it, which is what we do. You can also layer leaves on top of it. We talked about the beneficial properties and the importance of leaves in the garden a couple of weeks ago, and we put 2 to 3 feet of leaves on each one of our grow beds. Before we do all that, yes?
You had wanted to. We were talking about how the leaves have not dropped yet.
Right.
Because of the drought.
Yeah, they're holding on for a little bit longer.
So you may have to do this maybe you've put your garden to bed, but now you want to put leaves on it, and you're like, I have no leaves. So you might have to wait a little bit before these leaves drop.
Before we do any of this, which I would recommend you doing, is going out to the garden, big or small, however large your garden, photograph it. Take your phone, take a picture of it, or pictures, so you know what was planted where this year. That is important, so you're not putting tomatoes in the same spot tomatoes were this year, next year. Because the rotation of crops is important, because certain crops give and certain crops take away from the nutrients in the soil. So you don't want to double crop or put a same crop in the same spot year after year after year. You will greatly decrease the productivity of those plants. So that's a note for you to know what was where, because even with us, we have to think and go back and look at video and pictures of what was in this spot last year, and sometimes what was in this spot 2 years ago, so I don't put potatoes in the same spot, skip a year.
Right.
So we want to photograph it. Then we want to remove any of the diseased plants.
Definitely. If you have something with blight, like a late tomato blight, any type of blight, if you have bean rust on your plants, you don't want to put those in your compost. You want to put them directly in the trash. You don't want to
put them in the street. Don't
put them in the
street. Don't do that. Don't burn them.
Don't burn them.
No.
You want to just put them directly in the trash, because what can happen is that if that blight continues to live on, then if you put it into the street,
if it stays warm enough in that compost
if it stays warm enough, if you put them in the street, then you're going to spread that around to all of your friends,
well, anybody
family,
who's,
and anybody who's going to pick up that compost from the city.
Right, because that city's compost is going to have that blight in it, which stays warm enough, because compost breaks down at a certain temperature. The blight stays active,
and then if you put it in your own compost,
right.
you have that same issue. So if you have a plant that has a disease, and you're not sure what that disease is, it's better to just put in the trash versus trying to think, okay, maybe this compost will kill that disease, and that's not necessarily what's going to happen.
I would even recommend powdery mildew on your vine crops, your zucchini, your melons, your pumpkins. Some people will say you can put that in the compost and the heat will kill it. That may be scientifically proven, but I would much rather just get it away, get it gone, make it disappear, not put it in the street, do not put it in the compost, and start fresh.
Right.
It's simply as that. If you have plants that are not diseased, that are perfectly fine, that just died from natural progression, natural cycle, compost those, that's fine.
Right. And so then another thing you want to do is, if you're going to do you can prune the perennials, especially, but the woody ones, you want to wait until they've lost all of their leaves.
Same thing with trees. It's too early to be trimming trees. You want to wait until a dormancy. They go into dormancy, and that's why it's more recommended to trim trees, late January, early February, before they come out of dormancy, so you can do it correctly.
Right. So this is something to keep in mind. We're telling you this now, yes, but it doesn't mean you need to do all of this weekend necessarily. Is something that you can
over the next
do
couple
over
of
the
weeks.
Next couple weeks.
Don't leave some plants for the birds. Sunflowers we leave up for the birds until they completely destroy them. And there's other plants that you can leave up. Also, if you have a lot of shrubbery, that type of thing, that's good for them to live. Also, insects to house over the winter as well.
And you can actually do some planting now. You can plant your garlic.
You can still do that.
If you have any other bulbs you want to plant, you can still do that at this point. You can do it up until the ground freezes, essentially.
Well, I would recommend the garlic.
Right. Well, the garlic you'd want to do now, but
right.
Any other bulbs you could do over the next couple of weeks.
You want to get your tools cleaned up. Don't use automotive oil or lubricant to clean your tools. That if you're going to be organic about this, use a cooking oil of some sort. Scrub it with a wire brush, and then coat it with a cooking oil that is a food grade material, because it doesn't make any sense to clean the tool and then spray it with a lubricant that is not organic or not
right.
food grade, and then you're mixing it in with your soil.
But the important part is to clean those tools.
Because they will rust.
They will rust. Bring them in. Don't just leave them randomly in your yard or whatever.
And the reason why is because the wood handles will begin to rot, and then you'll start digging and your handles will start breaking, and it's not a good. Then you got to buy new tools.
And then you have to think about your containers. At some point, either you're going to decide to leave them out for winter, or you want to bring them in. But if the plants in them aren't dead, maybe you want to dump the soil somewhere. Maybe you want to bring them into a shed with the soil in them. That's something that you have to think about too.
Grow bags, if you're growing in grow bags, you can leave those out. Those are not going to be hurt. If you're using the Root Maker grow bags, the white coated, perfectly fine to leave them out all winter long. Or you can take them in and clean your grow bags just in soapy water. Rinse them in a bucket. Don't put them through the washing machine, because that doesn't work. We've learned that lesson. The coating comes off of those.
One thing I want to mention is, say you have a pile of brush that you just toss behind like your shed or your garage or your back 40 or something. You may want to clean that up a bit. It could invite animals in over the winter.
Hibernation.
Yeah. So you may want to, if that's something that you're trying to avoid, you want to think about that now.
Also, you want to shield plants that animals might eat. Put fences around shrubs, or use guards or fencing around trees to protect from rabbits, voles, and deers. Also, you can coat them down with Bobex, the animal repellent spray that's the sponsor of the program. That works very, very well. It also, you might want to get it if you have family that stays too long at your house over the holidays. That will get rid of them too. But you use that at your own discretion. It's not something you want to open up indoors. I'll put it that way.
Just don't take your trash out.
Well,
yeah.
We'll cover that maybe some other time.
Yeah.
But you want to protect those plants from being ate on, because the plants are in a dormancy state, and the destruction of these animals on these plants will kill the plants. Where they eat the bark away from the tree. The bark is the life portion of the plant. Of the tree, and if all the bark is gone, the tree's going to die. So, and also you can mound soil and mulch around the base of grafted roses, and but remember to remove that in the spring so they don't suffocate.
I think that's good to know, because we've talked about roses, and while we don't grow any roses, a lot of people do.
And it's important to protect those. A lot of the plants in which we grow are not always necessarily acclimated to the environment in which we grow them in. So if you have any plants outside that you want to bring in, you can certainly do that by putting them in a container, digging them up. Maybe you've got a pepper plant that you're trying to save and try to get a few more peppers off of, that type of thing, or flowers, and they're in the ground, and you want to dig them up and bring them in. You can do that, but you want to follow some of the recommendations that William Moss gave us 2 weeks ago in bringing those plants indoors, so you can limit the amount of bugs that you do introduce into your home, your basement, your grow room, whatever the case is on that. So putting the garden to bed, our biggest thing is you got to feed the soil. You got to feed the soil. Now you can till it back you can till the leaves in the soil. We don't do that. We just recommend laying them on top. And if you have an area that's really clay dense soil, take compost. Put 6-8 inches of compost on top of that. Don't mix it in. Over the next 6, 8, 12 months, the natural progression of nature, the microbes, the water, the worms, will pull that compost into that soil and break that soil apart that was very densely clay packed. Mm-hmm. And it will enrich the soil like you wouldn't believe, and you don't have to do a thing. There is some time you have to give it to do its thing, but it will work very well. But feed that soil, because if you don't, there's only so much fertilizer you can put in the ground, and natural fertilizer in leaves and compost is the best way. Well, we can also get our landscape figured out, our lawn, and we can do that by checking errands out, and they can help us with that.
Do you hear that? That's your neighbor shaking in their grass-stained shoes, because Aaron's is going to help you step up your grass cutting game. Your name is on the mailbox, so that Aaron's name should be on your mower. Heavy-duty steel construction, smarter, smoother controls, professional cutting performance. The only thing we love more than the smell of freshly cut grass is the sweet taste of victory. Aaron's, it comes down to this. Visit aarons.com to find your local dealer for lawn and snow removal equipment. When we come back, we will have our guest author from the book No One Eats Alone, Food as a Social Enterprise, Mr. Michael Carolan.
Right after this.
Never miss a thing. Sign up for the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener newsletter. Go to thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com and click on the newsletter box.
Oh, yeah. What you say? You say Nasala Kombucha. It'll put some glide in your stride and some pep in your step. Nasala Kombucha. Yeah.
Nasala Kombucha makes your body happy. Nasala Kombucha makes your body smile.
The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, rootmaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants, to multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds. Rootmaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit rootmaker.com.
Do you have a little space to grow? Check out Greenstock Vertical Gardens at greenstockgarden.com. Greenstock is engineered to grow with its innovative space and water-saving design. You can grow vegetables, flowers, herbs, and even strawberries in just 2 square feet of space. Grow up instead of out. Perfect for the porch, patio, or deck. Grow up to 30 plants in a small space. GreenstockGarden.com has everything you need to grow in the littlest of spaces. Proudly made in the USA. For more information and to purchase, visit greenstockgarden.com. Beans and Barley Market and Cafe, a neighborhood specialty grocery store for the east side and greater Milwaukee area, where you can find all you need, from fresh produce to bakery to organic frozen dinners, from wine to fresh squeezed carrot juice. A health food store with hundreds of products, vitamins, supplements, bath and body items, magazines, cards, books, and a knowledgeable staff. Catering available, open daily at 8 a.m. The restaurant serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week with a menu of good, healthy, homemade food, including vegetarian and non-vegetarian specialties. 1901 East North Avenue, Milwaukee, 414-278-7878, and online at beansandbarley.com.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show on 860 AM WNOV and W293CX 106.5. So thankful that you've joined us on this Saturday morning to talk a little bit of gardening. And you can also talk a little bit of gardening with the wonderful, knowledgeable staff at Blue Mills Landscape and Garden Center, the official garden center of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show.
Yeah, Blue Mills, they have a lot of stuff for fall. They've got your mums, bulbs, gourds, pumpkins, all that good stuff. And you can find them at 4930 West Loomis Road in Greenfield. They can supply and surpass all of your garden needs. You can go to bluemills.com or call 414-282-4220.
Yeah, and they also have landscaping and free consultation on that. And they will also, if you're tired of cutting grass this year, they will do that for you next year. Not for free, but they will come and take care of all your landscape necessities next year. You can just give them a call. Well, Holly, let's go to the ivyorganics.com 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline and bring in our next guest.
Yeah, we have Michael Carolan. He's an Associate Dean for Research for the College of Liberal Arts at Colorado State University. He is the author of this book, No One Eats Alone, Food as a Social Enterprise, where he identifies the crucial missing ingredient from our current food movements, the human connection. Welcome to the program, Michael.
Hi, Holly. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to speak with Holly, myself, and our listeners about your book and the interesting things that you found out by writing this book.
Now, in today's world, people are constantly eating alone, whether at their desk or in their car or wherever. So why do you claim that no one eats alone?
Well, I guess there's 2 reasons for that. One is to in part evoke that very question, because what I try to, I'm sorry, I have there's some feedback in the back that it's hard to hear what I'm saying. Okay, all right, thanks. That's better. So what I try to do in the book is I interviewed a lot of people from Fortune 500 companies to talk with them about the ways in which they're able to shape our attitudes and tastes towards food. And the reason why I did that is to highlight for folks that are involved in the alternative food movement that there are other elements that they need to think more about when it comes to shaping the taste and desires around food. Now, what that means, I'll just give one example. Perhaps the most famous comes from actually Coca-Cola, who's been at the forefront of this. And this is the idea that if you can make food convivial, that people tend to associate with those foods and those practices in a much more positive way. And what I mean by that is Coke has had what is known as the ubiquitous strategy. And this is the idea of making sure that people have a Coke in their hands every time they're having a good time, every time that you're experiencing a pleasurable moment. And so this began the long love affair between what used to be at least our national pastime, baseball, and Coca-Cola. The thinking being that if you can at least get a Coke in the hands of a child when they're having a good time at a baseball game, then they'll begin to associate positive sentiments with this product. And then from that, Coca-Cola began to be at fairs and parks. And of course, more recently, McDonald's does this with Playland. And this is just simply the idea that when people are having a good time, there's a whole other positive economic benefits that come from that, from a business standpoint, from a food corporation standpoint. And so looking at ways in which some of these alternative food movements are trying to make their food social, make their food convivial, and then trying to extract from that ways in which we can talk about additional value that's created in these spaces, these local food movements, urban gardens, farmers markets, etc., that go beyond just creating jobs and generating revenue for the community, but also talk about concrete ways in which it's improving the social environment. And that's really what I try to do in this book.
Fantastic. Now, you prefer the term foodscape to as opposed to the word food system, and you argue that we need to shift from a society of food consumers to a food citizen. What are the differences between these terms, and how would, if we changed our language, how would that, what power does that language have to make us think about our relationship with food?
Yeah, so what's increasingly being used is the term food system. And when I interact with people from the USDA and policymakers and even practitioners, this idea of food system often gets reduced to what I would call a value chain, that food is nothing more than involves farmers, retailers, processors, and consumers. And as we just know anecdotally, food is more complex than that. The social life of food goes beyond just that value chain. And another piece to that is when we reduce ourselves just to consumers, we really reduce our imaginary when it comes to thinking about how we can create social change in our food system or in our foodscape. Because if we're just consumers, then the only way we can really change the foodscape or the food system is by making the right, quote-unquote, decisions upon what to buy. And I really want to push through this book, too, by showing examples that, you have to become also political if you want to think about social change in the context of food. Think beyond just buying the right things and also thinking about how you can get involved socially and civically and politically to make that change happen. And one really interesting point to kind of illustrate this about the power of some of these spaces is that I talk about in one instance where I did a longitudinal study looking at alternative food networks here along the Front Range in Colorado. And I interviewed people right when they were beginning to be involved in these spaces. And then I also interviewed them 2 years later after they had 2 years of, if you will, exposure to these practices and these people and this food. And what was interesting is that when I talked to them the first time and I asked them why they were involved in these spaces and why they bought this food, they overwhelmingly talked about things like, well, they thought the food tasted better or they thought it was healthier. And this actually replicates a lot of findings about why people tend to buy this sort of food, because they think it tastes better and is healthier. But what was interesting is when I talked to them again 2 years later, they still thought the food tasted great and was healthy, but their main priority had changed. Now their main priority for continuing to be involved in these spaces was because of the social connections they made. So they talked about things like wanting to support the community, wanting to support local growers, wanting to support systems that are sustainable, and creating and supporting systems that give their workers things like a livable wage. So there was a social justice element to that. And that's interesting to me because it shows that these experiences actually seem to play some sort of role in changing people's attitudes toward these particular foods, from thinking that it was only about taste and health to actually showing that the convivialness, if you will, of some of these experiences actually made them think about food in ways that went beyond what was good for me and what was good to my family, to having kind of a more we orientation, a community orientation, a more civic orientation. And so that's an important finding, to just try to show what I mean by these spaces, these experiences, creating value that go beyond just job growth and revenue generation for a community.
Very interesting. What are 2 actions somebody can take to become a better food citizen? After that, where can we look for more guidance in that field?
Right. 2 actions to become a better food citizen. Well, setting aside going to support and buy the right things, to talk about things like citizenship, I do encourage my students to get involved, to figure out what you're passionate about when it comes to food, and just get involved socially and politically with those things. Make those connections. And also, we don't think about this in the context of food very much, but as I talk about a lot in my book, it's really important to find spaces where you're able to interact with people that look and think differently from yourself. And of course, we could spend hours talking about the social and political divisions that exist in our society. But what I was also hopeful about this book is that some of these alternative food networks, by way of creating inviting spaces where people, black and white, different, who pray to different gods, are able to come together over food, over a dinner table, in a garden, while weeding, have conversations, and realize and generate empathy toward people that are different from themselves. And so I would also encourage people just to find opportunities to interact with people that are not just like themselves. And some of these food spaces create really wonderful opportunities for that, which have fairly significant social implications.
Well, and you bring up a point. No matter who you are or who you're around, the basis is food brings us together. We have a common core there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what makes this whole conversation around food so interesting to me, because unlike some topics, food is something, is something we all know intimately. It's something that we literally put into ourselves multiple times a day. And so to some degree, in some ways, we're all sort of experts about food, which makes it an interesting topic for conversation, but also an important and potentially important platform for creating ways in which we can interact with people in new ways.
Now, with your book, No One Eats Alone, what do you hope the reader takes away from it? I mean, as authors, we've had a number of authors on the program, and they all have an initial vision when they start writing the book. What did you hope, and what do you hope our listeners and your readers of this book take away when they consume it?
Right. I hope that readers will take away from the book an image of food that goes beyond what I sometimes describe as a very reductionist understanding of food, where we think about food purely in terms of its retail cost or purely in terms of what the nutrition facts say on the label, and just think about it in a more broad, systematic type of way. I give one example in the book that's really interesting, where I interviewed a gentleman from China who is a manager of an industrial vitamin D plant. And he talked about, kind of jokingly, how his plant is used to generate health in countries like the United States, because a lot of his vitamin D goes to fortifying much of the foods that exist in our foodscape today. If you look, most of our foods are in fact fortified with vitamins. These are all industrialized produced vitamins, and they're produced in ways that are not terribly sustainable, that are not very healthy. He was joking about how his plant spoils the environment and is harmful to the surrounding communities. And yet it's part of a system that is supposed to be creating a healthy bodies in the United States while simultaneously soiling healthy communities in other parts of the world. So I just want people to think about food in more complex ways, which I think will inform them not only as consumers but also as food citizens.
Well, fantastic. Thank you. And could you just tell us again the name of your book, where to find it, and where to find out more about about you?
Sure. The title of the book is No One Eats Alone, Food as a Social Enterprise. My name is Michael Carolan. As you said, I'm a professor of sociology at Colorado State University, and you can find my book online at islandpress.com or at Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or hopefully at some of your local bookstores. And if you want to learn more, you can look at my website, michaelcarolan.com, and that should tell you everything you need to know about me and my background.
Well, Michael, we appreciate you very much taking time out of your day to join Holly, myself, and all of our listeners to tell us more about your book and the mission behind it.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
And when we come back, your garden questions and our garden answers right after this.
Have a gardening question? You can call into the ivorganic.com hotline at 414-444-5250 right now.
Mycorrhizae is a beneficial fungus from PlantSuccess.com that will greatly increase your plant's germination, ability, and a healthier root structure. You can increase seed sprouting, root growth, and general plant germination. Mycorrhizae can be used with hydroponics, root cutting, seed sprouting, cocoa coir, and soil. PlantSuccess.com carries powder, granule, and tablet forms of mycorrhizae. Increase the level of mycorrhizae in your soil for your plants to give them the optimal opportunity to produce an incredible harvest. For more information and to purchase, visit PlantSuccess.com.
The River West Co-op Grocery and Cafe is proud to support the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener and a lot of other Wisconsin growers as well. The co-op offers a wide range of local and organic produce in their store and on their cafe menu, from apples to yogurt and everything in between. Open 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. weekdays, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. weekends at the corner of Clark and Frackney in Milwaukee's River West neighborhood. See what is in store and check out the Co-op Cafe's delicious vegetarian menu at riverwestcoop.org. Garden seeds do not have to cost a fortune. Just 99 cents at migardener.com. With over 300 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, and organic flower, vegetable, and herb seeds available year-round, pay less and get more seeds. Shipping as low as $2.50. That just makes sense. Go to migardener.com for seeds and gardening needs, tools, and special blend fertilizer. migardener.com. It's that simple. Family owned and operated.
I want a garden center that listens to and understands my needs.
I want to buy my gardening products from a local business with strong ties to the community.
All I want is a garden center that truly values their customers.
It seems like everyone is selling plants these days, but I'm having a hard time finding quality.
I take pride in my garden, so I want my garden center to take pride in their products.
Where will you be going for all of your gardening needs this season? Blue Mel's Garden Center. We are your answer.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show.
For people who are scoring at home or by themselves, we are the only garden radio show in Milwaukee, produced in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
We're the only one. We're number one.
Yeah.
With your hosts, Joey and Hallie Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, 860 AM, WNOV, and W293CX 106.5. If you've got a question, you can, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is your destination year-round for 1,100 plus garden videos, in-studio video, podcast replay segments, long, short format, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the whole deal. A lot of navigational there, a lot of things being added all the time. And if you've got a question, you can call into the ivorganics.com 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline, and we will have an answer for you.
ivorganics.com hotline is 414-444-5250. Ivy Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard naturally protects plants against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents, protects newly installed plants and trees, shields pruned and damaged surfaces. For use on your roses, fruit and nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs, this product is non-toxic, environmentally safe, and organic. For more information, visit ivorganics.com.
Yep, we had a number of questions, comments come in this week, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as well. And
so we're going to address, last week we had a caller. She called in about slugs and snails on her cabbage.
Correct.
And so there's a few things you can do. One, as we had mentioned, is the coffee grounds. Slugs and snails have that soft underside, and they do not like crawling on the coffee grounds. It
reduces. It's not 100% effective, but it greatly reduces the effects of the snails and slugs.
Yeah. Then you also want to think about maybe putting some gravel or sand around the plants. I would be careful with sand, but gravel wouldn't hurt. A little bit of gravel.
Almost make like a little hill with the gravel, so they would have to vertically go up and vertically go and come down, and they're not going to want to do that. It's a lot of extra work. Okay, I understand that. Where are you getting this information from, by the way, so everybody else knows where we can get good quality information from besides our website?
I'm getting this from the, let's see, is this Maryland? Yeah, the University of Maryland Extension office. So if you're ever looking for any type of gardening advice and you can't reach out to us, you can certainly visit the UW Extension websites.
You always want something with a .edu, University Extension. They have tried and true, scientific-based individuals who have proven these things work. It's not just somebody in Connecticut going, well, I think this will work. I'm going to put it on the internet so I can get hits and make money on it every time somebody clicks on something.
So
One of those.
These are good resources. Yes. So then you also want to, you could spray the slugs or vinegar with, or the snails with vinegar. If you see slug eggs, you can definitely remove those as well.
So you'd have to look for those. I'm not even sure what slug eggs look like, but.
And then if there's any like low-growing weeds, debris, rocks, or any other objects that slugs or snails are going to hide underneath or by, you want to remove that.
And around your plants that these items are being attacked, clean all the debris that they don't, or they're not able to slither under leaves or other debris to get to that plant to eat the plant. So,
right.
That's another thing. So here was a question that came in. I have the worst trouble getting Swiss chard to grow in the past years. I finally got it to grow. What do I do with it? I've never eaten it before. I wanted to grow it because it was very pretty. It's a very pretty plant.
It is a very pretty plant.
Do people actually eat this?
Yes.
And what can I do with it?
Well, we had a pretty good Swiss chard stand this year, and my sister did too. And basically, you can eat like any green. You can eat it like a salad.
Anything you do with spinach, you can substitute for Swiss chard. Number one.
You can add it to. You can cook it down. We like to cook our spinach, our chard, our kale down with a little bit of butter, bacon, garlic, any seasonings you like. It's usually delicious.
The stems, based on the maturity of the leaf, the stems may not be as pleasant to eat. Swiss chard comes in a variety of different colors: green, yellow, red, white.
Joey, tell them about the Swiss chard roll-ups that you like to
make. You take the Swiss chard leaf and you cut the stem out of it because that's going to be the toughest portion.
You want the larger leaves.
Yeah, leaves. Basically, turn it into a soft shell burrito. Put cheese on one side, roll it up, and then put toothpicks on it, and then you can put it on the grill or on your griddle and let that cheese melt internally, and it will hold together on the two sides of the Swiss chard, and then you have basically a Swiss chard cheese burrito, and it's very good. You can use whatever cheese you want to put in there. You can also put other toppings in there, but we just put, it's basically a cheese roll-up is essentially what it is. It works really well, but the larger the leaf, the better off you are with that because it is a struggle with shredded cheese on a very tiny leaf. You can roll them up, or you could sandwich it, put two on top of one another. But we've always found just rolling them up like a burrito and using toothpicks to keep them together works really well on the grill.
So there's definitely a few things you can do there.
Juicing it, you can also juice them.
Yeah.
If you have the right kind of juicing.
Right.
Yeah. The slow extract.
So this week Joey decided to dehydrate lettuce. These are the things he does when I'm at work and I don't know what's going on at home. So why did you do that, Joey?
Well, we've been dehydrating tomatoes. We've been dehydrating cucumbers. We dehydrated peppers. So I thought we had some leaf lettuce on the porch. Let's see what happens. Well, what happens is when you dehydrate lettuce, it turns into like a small green piece of paper. There's really no texture. There's no flavor. There's nothing to it, so it's not something I would recommend.
It's not exciting.
It's not something I would recommend, but here's the positive side of this. If you've got a lot of leaf lettuce and it's going to seed or going to bolt, you can dehydrate that, and when you try to eat it, the bitterness is gone, and you can also incorporate that into possibly soups that you are needing a little more texture to. That would work perfectly fine.
I can see that.
But it's not something you want to do, 50 pounds of lettuce you've dehydrated.
Like, it's not a trend. You probably shouldn't dehydrate a whole bunch of lettuce and then make your kids eat it. I don't think that is what's going to go on here. But I could see adding it to soups or something to give it some texture.
And I did it because I didn't know. You look this stuff up and, you don't really find a whole lot of content on it. So I dehydrated leaf lettuce to see what would happen. And it did work fine. But it's not something that you would want to do on a large scale.
Right. So let's see here. We have a comment. Thank you. Excellent broadcast. Interesting sponsors too. We'll check it out.
That was from Lena.
Lena. Okay. Yeah. Lena. And then Barbara says, hi there. This was a very informative podcast.
This was referring to last week's show, the podcast replay.
Enjoy learning tips. Have watched your wife canning. recording. Thank you guys.
Yeah, Holly, you've done it. I think there's 44 Canning What You Grow videos on our website, on our YouTube channel, the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. They're in a playlist, so you don't have to go searching for them. From chunky tomato salsa to pressure canning potatoes, pumpkin, and everything in between. 44 different. You don't give the recipe. I believe is in all the show notes.
Right.
But you go through a process of here's how you do it. Here's why you do it and the reasons if you don't do it this way. You are very detailed and you explain. It's not just a stagnant video of, okay, da-da-da-da-da. You go through the reasons why you're doing certain actions and the results and the purpose of those actions. So it's very informative, and if you're wanting to learn how to can, that is one place you can go. Another place you can go is get a hold of the Milwaukee Rec Department with the Master Canner of Milwaukee County, Christina Ward, who's also been a guest on this program. And you can also take courses. There's a certain small fee,
but you get to bring stuff home.
It's well worth the fee.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you've never canned before in your life, you want to go with somebody who knows how to do it, and she will walk you through the steps. You get to take home what you process. You get the free jars. You get to come home with a peace of mind and knowledge of, hey, I can do this, and I know you can,
mm-hmm.
and you know that what you've done is safe. And then she will also give you resources that you can rely on, and also reach out to her at any time. So, that being said, which one did you have? This is in regards to the chunky salsa video that we had on the website. The video has been up for about 2 years now. Let's see here. Teresa said, this is one of my favorite salsa videos. You explained the steps very, very well. My tomatoes are in the freezer, and I'm trying to decide what to make with them. I only water bath can. Do you think lime juice would be okay to add to this? Thank you for making these videos so simple and easy to learn from, and for making them in general, Teresa. So there's a couple questions there we need to address.
Okay, so first of all, for those of you who have a lot of tomatoes, you may not realize, but you can take your tomatoes if you're not ready to process them, and you can put them in freezer bags and you can put them in the freezer until you are ready to process them.
Bag them, freeze them.
Yeah,
nothing more you have to do.
No.
Okay.
So if there's a lot of dirt or gross stuff on them, you want to wash them, or I would just do that anyway. But then you put them in
disease-free.
Yeah, like clean.
Right, but if they have blotches, disease, don't put those in the freezer. But
no, yeah.
Okay.
So yes, you put them in a freezer bag and then you can freeze them until you're ready to use them. And the beautiful part about that is it makes it very easy to peel them once they've been frozen and thawed. The skins come right off.
Disclaimer: this works best if you're going to do like salsa or soups or stews. You don't want to try to freeze them and then pull them out and try to make peeled diced tomatoes. They do collapse.
No, it's more it's more for more produced tomato things. But so that's one thing I wanted to mention here. But she water bath cans, which is fine. Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of people do. But you don't want to use the lime juice. You would want. I think that recipe calls for vinegar. I use the vinegar, so you'd want to use the vinegar instead of the lime.
Mm-hmm. But if you do use lime or lemon juice, you want to use the bottle because of the consistency of the pH or the acidity in those, and you don't want to use fresh.
And I don't know anything about the lime juice in a bottle. I just know that the lemon juice has a consistency.
And you want to use store-bought vinegar when you're going to use it. Right. You don't want to use your homemade vinegar because of the acidity is not the percentage correct. It can be deadly to you unless you're going to go through the process of checking it all out.
Right.
We appreciate you tuning into the program each and every week. Next week is our final show of the year, and you've heard great sponsors who've made this show absolutely possible. Just like
Nasala Kombucha is the executive sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show. Nasala is made in Wisconsin with local tea and natural herbs. Look for it in the refrigerator aisle at your local grocer. If you don't see it, ask for it, because if it's not Nasala Kombucha, it's not kombucha. Find out more at nasala.com.
Programming note, join us next week for our final episode where we'll be talking about if you are not a gardener. We're going to give you reasons why you might want to consider being a gardener and growing some of your own food next year, whether on your own property or in a community garden, as well as organic products, home products that you may not know exist that you probably should be buying that would be better for you and your family. We're going to go over a list of those, as well as our good friend homeopathic practitioner Robert Scott Bell from Florida. He has a national syndicated radio program on GCN as well as National Natural News Network. He will be with us. We'll be talking about the misconceptions of vaccinations as well as what happened to the Zika virus and using what the Creator has provided for us on this planet to heal our bodies. That will be the final show next week. Miss any portion of this program or want to revisit it in its entirety, find that under the radio tab on the website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. Specific interview or segment, find that underneath the highlight tab on the right-hand side. Until next week for our final show,
I'm Holly Baird.
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.